Congratulations on grabbing access to this video course on infographic traffic. We're going to help you find out how to bring more eyeballs back to your site via infographics. But before we go out and we create an infographic, really what it comes down to is understanding how to create a high converting infographic. So that starts with the basic fundamentals. That's what we're going to be covering in the next few videos. And then once you understand the breakdown or anatomy of the infographic itself, then we will begin to piece it together. Then you can drive traffic, and then you can do everything else. But before you can do that, you have to know the basic fundamentals, right? So this is video number 1, which is the introduction. I'm going to talk about things that you're going to need to have an understanding of your audience and your niche and everything like that before you really begin to think about the colors and the graphics and everything like that. That's actually 10% of this whole process. So I want you to understand that, because a lot of times we want to jump in, we want to go ahead and create the infographics right away, but the reality is understanding how to create a high converting infographic. Because if we go all out there, we create an infographic that just looks nice, and we don't really make it appeal to our target audience, it's really not going to do any of us any good, right? So that's actually the first thing we want to figure out. So delivering value through information. So if you look at a lot of the infographics, you'll see statistics, you'll see a lot of facts, but you'll see some sort of value that is being offered to that specific target audience. And that target audience feels like, wow, this is something maybe that would have taken me a while to figure out, or maybe it would have cost me money to figure out. So in a way, it's kind of like a pre-selling mechanism to help you sell your products and services. Now, before we get to that point, the key is to get people to become loyal followers. So that's that pre-selling mechanism. So in order to do that, what we need to do is we need to determine your niche. What is your niche, or what is your sub-niche of your product and service? People are not necessarily going to be interested in your product or service unless it fulfills some sort of emotion, some sort of problem that they're having in a particular niche. So obviously, go ahead, pause this video if you need to, and jot that right now. The next thing you'll want to do is determine your target audience. Now, this can be quite broad, but we really want it to be as specific as you can. So a specific niche, a specific audience, and a specific need and desire. Like, what is their end result? What are they willing to pay money for, kind of thing, in order to resolve a particular problem. And then, of course, you can determine your presentation style. So as you can see, the first two, the niche is 1/3, the target audience is another third, and then the presentation style is the other last third. So we can see that presentation and graphics and coloring is important. And as you know, the specific colors that you put on there can make people feel a certain way and evoke certain emotions and everything like that. So we'll talk about more about that later on. But as you can see, we need to figure out the most important parts of the pieces of the puzzle first. So I really want you to pause this video if you can and just jot that down so that you have an idea. Also jot down what you think people are willing to buy. What do you think people are willing to spend time on? And jot those thoughts down. Don't think about having to organize them or fix grammar issues or anything like that. Just let your creative mind flow throughout right now. The next thing I want you to think about is the information that you will be offering. You see, too much information on your page is one sure way to turn people off. Creating infographics is a great way to engage your audience and keep them interested. In a way, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you can think about it, if you look at a lot of infographics, we take a look at them and we see statistics, facts, and in association with the fact, you see pictures. So there are more pictures on the infographic than there are text. So if we were to measure them both, you should at the end result see more graphics, more images, more icons than words. So if you can jot down just the questions, just the desires, just the problems people face right now, and then go out and find the pictures and then replace those words with pictures, that's the best way to go about doing this. And that way, your end goal is to get rid of as many words as possible and replace them with pictures. So before we jump on and move on to video number 2, I want to talk about this video course as a whole. So you know exactly what to expect, exactly what we're going to talk about in this particular video course, and that way things will be sped up and it'll be easier to implement for you. Video number 1, of course, is this particular video. Video number 2 is the anatomy of successful infographics. So we are going to break things apart so that you understand segment by segment. Number 3, we're going to talk about different styles of infographics. There are many different angles, many different directions that you can take. I want to make sure that I explain those so that you can pick and choose which one is the best for you. Video number 4, we're going to talk about strategies to build curiosity within your infographic. You know, right off the bat, when somebody takes a look at your infographic, that should build curiosity from the top to the bottom. It should get them into the mode of really wanting to see the whole infographic. So how do you do that? We'll talk about that in that particular video. Video number 5, we're going to talk about strategies to invoke call to action. Getting somebody to take action is crucial. How do you do that? We'll talk about that. Number 6, we're going to talk about the top tested free and paid tools. So we're going to give you both sides of the coin. That way you can pick and choose what is best for you. If you want to test whatever infographic tool you can, or you can just simply use Piktochart, which is what we recommend, and that's what we're going to be using in video number 7. Video number 8, we're going to talk about how to promote your infographics on social media. In video number 9, we're going to talk about bonus ninja tricks and how you can get a flood of visitors to your infographic. So video number 9 is a bonus video that will help you take things further on. But the real goal of this video course is to show you how to create high converting infographics. But how do you take it beyond that? How do you drive traffic? So that is going to be videos 8 and 9. So with that said, let's move on to video number 2, and that is the anatomy of successful infographics. Welcome back. This is video number 2, and this is the anatomy of successful infographics. Now, we're not necessarily going to break down and talk about content and different ideas that you can utilize for your own infographics, but we are going to break down the broad spectrum of infographics. And then from that point, we're going to break it down further and further and further. So let's start with the basics. What is an infographic? Well, an infographic, as you know, is information plus graphics combined together. Now the question begs, how much content should you use? How much graphics should you use? What kinds of graphics should you use? Well, let's talk about that. So an infographic is made up of sections that build up to tell a story in one holistic graphical presentation. So I really want you to think about that. Infographics tell a story. If you think about the stories that you've been told, a lot of them end up with some sort of moral or lesson at the end of the story. And if you haven't, then if you notice, the really good stories end with that type of content, an angle. So your goal here is to tell a story via your infographics. So they have to build up upon each other. They can't be scattered and all over. So they have to have an end goal. So your end goal, obviously, in your case, is it could be branding, You could try to get people more acquainted with your brand, with your product, with your service, with what you're offering that could potentially help your potential prospect and potential customer. So number one, an awesome infographic should tell a story. So I want you to think about that. What kind of story do you want to tell? So you want to establish a flow and make sure that each section connects with each other. So as I mentioned earlier, it cannot be scattered. It has to be connected to each other to end up building upon each other with the end goal in mind. The lesson, the moral, which is getting somebody to ultimately buy and get interested in your product and get interested in what your product, what your company is passionate about. And number two is balance and consistency in style. You want to think of a theme that goes along with your story. Not many themes, but just one theme. You can think about a couple of themes, but just pick one. You want to limit the color palette or the colors that you utilize within your infographic up to 4 different colors max. And the reason being is because you don't want to get too scattered. You don't want to pull people into too many directions, otherwise they will become distracted. So you want to be simple, consistent, but yet it appeals to them and the information appeals to them. And the infographics and the graphics also appeal to them. Because a graphic is something that is going to stick in your mind. I can think back to a lot of infographics that I viewed, and I can remember the content from those infographics versus articles that I have read. Even the articles that might be interesting, I've remembered those infographics more than I have the text. And that is a similar case with a lot of people out there, especially with visual and kinesthetic learners. Visual and kinesthetic learners actually make up a large majority of your audience out there, especially on the online business or online presence. Bold or adding colors and style to make pertinent information pop. So you want to figure out what information is going to be important and then bold it, add color, add life to it, but not too much life. You don't want to get all too many different colors and get crazy. Just want to be consistent and simple. Font should be legible, should be professional. Limit your font to about maximum of 2 styles. So same with font, same with colors, same with graphics. Don't want to get too fancy or too crazy. And use various headlines to grab attention. An ideal size of infographics is about 735 pixels wide or width and up to 5,000 pixels of height. So you can see that they are longer in height than in width. Use images. You want to stick with one style for all of your images. So in other words, you don't really want to use cartoon pictures and then real life pictures or even icons all mixed together. You want to stay consistent. So if you look at really successful infographics, a lot of times they typically are utilizing cartoon or mascots or some sort of non-live type picture, but it's consistent throughout the whole infographic. It's fine if you want to use real life pictures, but if you use real life pictures and cartoons and all these other different variations of graphics, it just gets confusing and it distracts the eyes. So you don't want that. You want them to pay close attention to what you are trying to offer as far as information goes and graphics goes. And what I would advise you to do is use a JPEG file within the graphics itself. So obviously the big graphics is made up of tiny little images, which I would recommend you use JPEG or even PNG, because JPEGs tend to be compressed images, therefore the images are smaller, and therefore it takes faster time to actually load. So if you were to utilize bigger pictures, larger size pictures within your infographics, then it's going to slow the load time down. So you have to think about it this way. Not everybody is going to have a super fast connection. Even though you might have it and all your friends might have it or your region might have it, if you're trying to appeal to everybody around the world, some people will only have slow connections. And if that is the case and your infographic takes too long to load, guess what? Just like leaving a website because it takes too long to load, they're going to leave your infographic as well. Number 4 is adding statistics and interesting facts. So obviously, graphics alone is not going to be what sells. What sells is the actual statistics, the graphs, the actual information. The content is what sells. The graphics is what gets people interested and builds upon that curiosity. So you want to add graphs, charts, data to back up your claim, right? You want to share interesting facts to capture your audience's attention. So as you're building up that story, your end goal in mind, you can start jotting down facts, questions, maybe facts or statistics that back up what you're trying to sell. So let's say, for example, that you're trying to sell something related to YouTube marketing or something. Obviously, for that case, you want to back up your stats by saying YouTube gets this many hits, YouTube this gets this many views and conversions and everything like that. So you want to make sure that you have facts and statistics to back up your claim. Otherwise, it's just a graphic. It's nothing really special. So here are some examples of different facts, different sales copy essentially that you can utilize. Stuff like, did you know that 58% of the people in this market do this? Or 58% of this market do not do this? Or 99% of this market don't even realize this statistic? Something that might be shocking but truthful at the same time. You definitely want to be truthful. You definitely don't want to lie. Top 5, top 10 things maybe that you can combine this. So for example, the top 5 things that 58% of the people in this market do not know. So combine these examples together. And then the highest ranking, the lowest ranking things. Top reasons, top 10 reasons, top 5 reasons, top 3 reasons why maybe 99% of the market does not know this, or the most popular, things like that. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on different angles, different facts, different statistics that you can utilize within your own infographic to back up your claim. Now, as far as getting the word out for your infographics, you obviously want to make sure that your infographics are easily shared. So if you create embed codes for your infographic for people to post on their own websites, share it and make people's lives easier in that aspect, it's going to get you more traffic. You also want to add social sharing buttons. So in a way, right now, I'm giving you some ideas on getting more traffic, but I'm going to talk more about that in video number 8 and 9. So at the end of the day, if you make it easy for people to understand your graphic, to share your infographic, you can use this infographic strategy to not only get more traffic, but convert that traffic into actual customers. Now, keep in mind that at any time, if you refer to a statistic that is not necessarily yours, or maybe it's coming off a website, you want to make sure that you give that site credit. So make sure that you cite your sources, you cite your reference links at the very bottom part of your infographics. Now, as far as utilizing images go, you need to make sure that you buy your images from a royalty-free site such as bigstockphoto.com or graphicriver.net. And the reason being is you can't just go on Google and grab images because it looks good. By doing so, you're going to be violating somebody else's copyright law, and you definitely don't want to go down that route. So make sure that you're safe by buying royalty-free images so that you can get all the traffic that you can legally. And when it comes to branding, make sure that you add your brand name and web page URL at the very bottom of your graphic. So sometimes people might embed it onto their website and they might not link back. But if you have that link at the bottom of your graphic, then of course people can find you after they look at the infographic. It appeals to them. It's something that they definitely want to find out more information about. So make sure that you have those key elements on your infographic so you're not losing out on traffic. Now, keep in mind at the same time that if your web page URL is too long, you might want to shorten it up a little bit, but that's just something to keep in mind so you don't lose out on traffic. If somebody sees a URL that's too long, they might think to themselves, well, it's too long, I don't really have a lot of time, I might have to do it later. But you want to make sure that you get them at that moment, not get them later, because most people will forget about later. And if you think about you and I, when we say we're going to do that later, how many times do we really do it later? Or how many times do we really remember that exact URL? So same with your prospects and same with your customers. Make sure that it's easy for them to take the call to action. And I'll talk more about that in a lot more in depth in the future videos. So with that said, let's move on to video number 3 and talk about 8 different styles of infographics. Hello and welcome to video number 3, and this is 8 different styles of infographics. And the goal of this particular video is to show you different angles that you can take that you can apply to your infographics. So hopefully by the end of this particular video, you have a good idea of which style you want to use for your own infographic. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I want to do this, that, and the other. Really, I want you to just think of one infographic that you could apply. And I'm going to show you different infographics that can be used for different traffic sources and how they appeal to different audiences so that you can pick the right one. So the first style is called the graphic content. So this is pretty simple, but it's an illustration version of a blog post or article. And this is perfect for informative infographics. You can basically turn lengthy articles with lots of content into an appealing illustration. So like I said earlier, a picture is worth 1,000 words, or even in this case, it could be worth 10, 20, 30, 40 words. So what you want to do is you could have the article written out and you want to look at the article and you want to see how you can replace certain paragraphs possibly with different graphical content, icons, cartoons, real life images. But like I said in the previous video, make sure that you are consistent with your graphics. Now, in this case, you definitely want to add attention. You want to have a grabbing headline that grabs people in. You want to build upon that, add to your storyline, add to your content, and pull people in further and further and further. So essentially, you want to add a short but powerful description about your topic. And this works really, really well on social media because, as you know, with social media, everyone does not have a long attention span. You know, people are looking at different things on social media, so you need to be able to grab them right away and then pull them in. And if you look at a lot of different infographics that are on social media sites and that do well on social media sites, you'll notice a pattern, and that pattern is graphical content. That is big on social networking sites such as LinkedIn. So if you think about your audience, you want to think about images that would actually relate to them, to your niche, to your target market, and would emotionally some way relate to them. Because everyone's not really going to be motivated purely by your statistics. They're going to be motivated by your graphics that invoked emotion. Because as you know, most people buy because of emotion. They do not buy initially because of a logic. Emotion starts first, and then logic justifies that desire to buy the product. Second style is a flow chart. So in this case, you can use a lot of processes, flows, and you can also use it as a fun and creative way to answer a specific question. So if you think about a flow chart, we always have a starting point. You have a starting point, you go to somewhere, you can have yes or no. If it's yes, they moved here. If they no, they move to a different process and different avenue and different pathway. So a flow chart is really good at expressing sometimes complicated questions where there is an if or else kind of avenue. So if you do this, then it might take you to this pathway here. If you say no, then it'll take you to this pathway here. So this is great. So what you can do to create a flowchart type infographic style is to create a series of questions that would lead to one particular answer. So as you know, your end goal is to lead them to one particular answer. But when somebody views a flowchart, they don't really know that is your end goal. So if you can some way direct them to your end goal, whether that be subscribe to your list, buy your product or service, then you will successfully have completed that goal. But you always have to start writing out the questions first before you actually implement the graphics. So like I said, if you start with the graphics first, you're not going to be able to create a compelling story. So write it out first and then graph it out second. Now this also works really well on social networking sites as well. Number 3 is the timeline. History need not be boring. You really can make it fun and creative by using infographics. So if your infographic requires a timeline, your content has a cumulative step-by-step timeline or step-by-step process, then this might be the style for you. So here's an example. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to history, but it can relate to a step-by-step process as well. But as you can see in this example shows the whole timeline that it takes to launch maybe a product. So from the concept, the idea, to structuring it, to filling in creative ideas, to developing it, to testing, to make sure that it works, and to do a full launch. So this essentially could be applied to even the creation of an infographic. Before you can even launch the infographic, or before you can test it or develop it or have creative graphics or wireframe it, it all starts with a concept or idea, right? So the concept starts here, then we can build upon it. So obviously with an infographic, you need to write it out. Questions, story plots, whatever that might be. And then you wireframe it so you can figure out, okay, what do these questions go in order? Do they need to go in order? Is it a step-by-step process? Create the structure. Then add the graphics elements. So you can't add the graphic elements first, as you can see here. So this is a great way to make it creative and fun. And this works well to present a series of events, a sequential step-by-step process, cycles, a journey, and the likes. The fourth one is reference. Your old, reliable, and usable handy guide. With a reference, you can break down a process, for example, 7 steps or 7 guides to choosing the theme for your infographic, or 10 steps to creating a maybe flowchart infographic. So it breaks down a very complex process. So another example of this is maybe the Dummies book. So if you see the Dummies, something for dummies, scrapbooking for dummies, internet marketing for dummies, WordPress for dummies, hair cutting for dummies, whatever that might be for dummies. But it breaks it down into a simplistic process. So what is complex in your niche, in your target market? What are things that people have problems in your target market? This could be your infographics. So how can you take that and break it down to something more simplistic? So another example, what to do when an earthquake strikes. So what do you do? Like, what do you do? Survival guide, bug out bags. What do you do? What do you do immediately? What do you do afterwards? Kind of thing. Cheat sheets are another good thing. So, for example, KitchenAid for your baking needs, your guide to color emotion wheel, things like swipe files, templates, things that are easy and take something complex and make it easier. Usable charts. Example, the metrics conversion chart. Number 5 is compare and contrast. Highlight the pros and cons by comparing and contrasting one versus the other. This is really, really good, especially when you have A and B, enemy, hero, something versus something, fact versus fiction, myth versus truth. This is really good in that sense, because if you look at a lot of things outside, if you add controversy of some sort, compare and contrast, dog or cat lovers, then what happens is you bring in people from both sides of the coin. And it really thought provokes people. It really gets them that point where they really think. They're either on side A or side B. So you can compare the contrast. This is really good for controversy, getting viral marketing, viral shares to your infographic. Number 6 is reports and number crunching. For tons of data, charts, graphics, numbers, a statistical type of infographic really works well. So when somebody looks at tons of numbers, it gets overwhelming. So how do you take those numbers and turn them into a chart so that it is easy for people to understand? So pie charts, line graphs, things that would appeal to your audience, but would make things a lot easier for them to understand. Now, if you do use a strategy, I would recommend that you make sure to use just one color scheme for all of your graphs and charts. Because like I said, you don't want to distract them by utilizing too many colors, too many fonts, too many different things. Keep it simple, use one theme, one color, or a few colors, or max 4 colors, and go with that. Number 7 is photo infographics. So kind of going back to what I said earlier, you kind of want to choose cartoons only or realistic photo only and stick with that. So this kind of infographic uses just one main image with a little bit of content, and the image would tell the story. So you don't need to have a ton of images, just a few that would really tell the story. And then of course, number 8, make your own style, test it out, see what works. So designing your own infographic has endless possibilities. You could even take 1 through 7 and combine a few and mix and match and see how the combination affects your infographic. You could split test it, you could see what works, and then what works with your audience, stick with that. Don't go all out and pick other different types. Figure out what works, what doesn't work, and stick with what works. By developing your own styles and mixing and matching what works for you, you'll be able to figure out what works for your audience. And like I said, different audiences are different, so find what works and stick with it. That's it. Let's move on to video number 4 and talk about strategies to build curiosity, making infographics thought-provoking. So in video number 4, we're going to talk about the strategies to build curiosity, making infographics thought-provoking. So what this video is going to help you to do is to avoid being ignored. So here are 13 quick tips to make your infographics thought-provoking so that you keep their attention span. Number 1, you want to keep it short. Don't put too many words and try to keep within the height and width that we talked about earlier. Number 2, limit the file size. Like I said earlier, if your file size is too big, then somebody with a slower internet connection who might be interested in your infographic will have a hard time loading your infographic, and therefore they're just going to quit and they're going to move on to the next thing that grabs their attention. So you're fighting for their attention. So you need to make sure that your file size is less than 1.5 megabytes at least. Third, add power words to your headline and action words, things that will grab their attention. And number 4, add subheadlines that will back up your main headline. And number 5, try to inject some humor. And what you're doing, as you can see here, is you're grabbing them in. You're grabbing them in. And number 6, use original images. And number 7, share interesting facts and statistics. And number 8, share the history of your product and service. And number 9, compare the products. And number 10, quote interesting facts from notable sources. And make sure to refer back to the sources and give them credit. And number 11, allot white space. So make sure that you don't clump everything together. You make sure there's white space in between your text and white space in between your graphics as well. And number 12 will be relating to your target audience. If you try to get too broad, too general, and you don't really relate to them, they are not going to feel like you're talking directly to them. Rather, you're talking directly to somebody else. So you want to make sure that you're talking directly to them. You might get less quantity of traffic, but you're going to get a higher conversion rate. And number 13, make sure your infographics are, of course, useful and helpful so that they'll want to watch your other infographics, or they're going to be interested in your products and services that you constantly are grabbing them in. So if you apply these 13 quick tips to your infographics, you'll gradually, as you can see here, you'll suck them in, build curiosity throughout the whole way. And that's what you want. So video number 5, we're going to talk about strategies to invoke call to action. One of the biggest mistakes that we all make at one time or another is that we create assumptions in our mind that we assume that people already know what to do next. So having a call to action is key. Telling somebody exactly what they need to do next. Because if they're interested, they want to know. If they're not interested, obviously they're probably going to quit and exit. But if they're interested and they want to know, but you're not necessarily telling them exactly what to do, then they're going to get frustrated. Some might contact you if they're really desperate, but if they can't and they don't know exactly what to do next and exactly how to do it, then you're going to lose out on sales. So you need to make sure that you're clear about what to do next, which is basically the call to action. So the call to action can either be text or image, like I said. Try out different call to action styles apart from the usual rectangular button. So I'm going to give you some examples here that you can apply to your infographics. So number 1, you can have bulletproof images. So actual images that you can have on the infographic itself that shows somebody taking some sort of action. Number 2, you can use a contrasting color to the background. And when I refer to the background, I'm referring to the background of the infographic itself. So let's say, for example, the infographic is blue. You could make the call to action orange. Now, if you know anything about colors, you know that blue and orange work really well together. Blue invokes that type of emotion that says calm. And then orange says take action. Now, if you put a red button in certain cultures and majority cultures, red means stop. Red can mean happiness in other cultures. So obviously you need to know who you're targeting and what culture they might be in as far as the majority goes. Now, like I said, a red button might not mean take action. So what I recommend that you do is you head on over to Google and you type in the keyword color psychology. And you will actually be able to get access to images that will tell you blue means this, orange means that, and you can use those colors to your advantage on that infographic in the call to action. So like I said, blue and orange work really good together. Orange works really good as far as getting people to take action. You'll notice, like, for example, PayPal. PayPal is such a big company and they test this type of stuff. And you'll notice that they use blue and orange. A lot of companies use blue and orange because that helps get people to take action. Now, you don't want to use certain colors that might invoke stuff like stop or something that isn't calming. So I would advise you to take a look at those different colors. The third one is to add visual cues such as arrows that are pointing to your call to action. So maybe around that orange box or whatever box that you decide to use. Adding red arrows in this case is fine because the arrows are actually saying stop and it's pointing towards the actual button itself. The problem arises when you place the call to action as a color that means stop or some sort of negative color. So as long as that's the case, that's fine. But arrows work really, really well. Number 4, strategically place the call to action right before each section break. So you can add additional call to actions throughout your infographic. So don't want to put too many, but you want to put just enough to make it so that it's pretty obvious what they need to do next. You can also create multiple clickable text, objects, or images that would lead to your page. And number 6, you can tell viewers what they need to do and why they need to take action. You can add some scarcity as well to get them to take action immediately, and that will help you greatly. So that brings us to video number 6, and we're going to talk about tools, free tools and paid tools. And then we're going to actually utilize one of the tools in video number 7. So in video number 6, we're going to talk about the top tested free and paid tools to create professional infographics. So that way we give you different options, different avenues that you can take, and you can try them out, or you can utilize the recommended tool that we are going to use, which is Piktochart, in video number 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down different tools, tell you how they work differently so that you can understand that they're definitely intuitive, but they are versatile and they cater to different niches as well. So in as easy as literally 3 steps, you can create an awesome infographic. So now up until this point, you have learned different styles, 8 different styles, 13 different ways to provoke your audience in a thought-provoking, positive way, and a breakdown of the anatomy. So Piktochart is one of the recommended tools that we use, and that is Piktochart.com, as you can see here. And this is ranked over and over as the best program for creating infographics. The second one is called Easel.ly. So Easel, EASEL.ly. And their main focus is mainly on infographics, so it's less confusing for newbies. Now, Piktochart it's amazing because you can do so much, but with more freedom. Obviously, it's not going to be super newbie friendly, and it can be newbie friendly if you just pick and choose the templates that are done for you and just fill things in. But Easel is definitely made a lot more for newbies. And then of course we have Infogr.am, Infogram. And this is ideal for creating infographics that are large on data and stats and numbers. So if we look at the style that requires a lot of number crunching, a lot of data, this might be good for you. And fourth, we have Venngage.com. And Venngage is a simple and straightforward infographic tool that is ideal for basic users. And of course, we have visme.co. And this is versatile and flexible, and it's ideal for more advanced users. Now, we like Piktochart because it's kind of the best of both worlds. It's good for newbies in the case that if you pick and choose the templates that are pre-done for you and you fill it in, your infographic is going to look nice. But at the same time, if you start creating more infographics after more infographics, and you really want to go advanced, you want that freedom to expand, then you can actually do that with Piktochart. So that's why we like Piktochart. That's why in video number 7, we're going to talk about how to create infographics by using Piktochart. So in video number 7, we are going to talk about how to create infographics with Piktochart. To access Piktochart, simply go to piktochart.com. When you get to the front side, you'll be able to see a button that says Start for Free. Click on that button, go ahead and create an account because we'll see you on the inside. Now, before we continue, I will say that even though you can create a free account, there are limitations, so just keep that in mind. Now, there are 2 plans, as you can see, a light version and a pro version. The light version allows you to access templates, access icons. However, you cannot remove the watermark, you cannot save it to PDF, and you cannot do these other things here. With the pro version, you can do a lot more, such as save to PDF file and to other different types of files as well. But as you can see, it is about $29 per month. But if you plan to utilize this strategy to really skyrocket and get a lot of flood of traffic, then this is a great tool to have. We've tested a lot of the other tools, and really we found Piktochart to be one of the best as far as being newbie friendly and being advanced friendly as well. So as you can see, this is what it looks like on the free level itself, so that you have a good idea of what it looks like on the inside. Of course, you can upgrade in the future whenever you want to. Now, as you can see here, Piktochart provides you with infographics, presentations, posters, and reports. So these are 4 different possible medians that you can attack. Now, obviously, this video course surrounds infographics, but you can create these other ones here as well. Now, if we click on infographic here, we can see all the free templates. So as you can see, if we move to poster, you can see that it has actually changed down below. So clicking infographic allows us to see all the free templates that are available to you. So even within the free level, there's a lot of great templates that you can use. Now, as you can see, there is a limitation. To upgrade to Light and Pro, you're going to get access to a lot more infographics that look a lot nicer, that have more of a upgraded look, as you can see here. Now, on the free level, let's go ahead and click one of these. So let's go ahead and click this one here. So we can click on preview to see if we really like it. And when you're ready, simply click create. So as you can see here, this one says 2014 startup. And even though it says something that may not relate specifically to what we want, remember that you can always change the template around to make it look how you wish. So for example, if we double click here, you can change the text, you can change the font, and there's so many different fonts here. But like I said, you do not want to pick too many different font types. So pick something that's simple, pick something that's not too fancy. We'll say something like, and you can change the color, you can change the background of the color, you can change the icons. So if we double click this, we can always move the icon around. So as you can see, this is on a circle. We can move the circle around, we can move the icons around, we can even import icons as well. So as you can see, there are different icons here. and we can simply pull them, drag and drop it in. We can increase the size, decrease the size. You can sort through tons of different categories of icons. So besides icons, we have photos as well. Sceneries, we have photo frames, we have shapes and lines. You also have uploads, so you can upload your own images as well. You also have background images. We have text, so we can pull in different types of text and different logos, as you can see here. And you can even customize the logo as well. Now, you can also add videos. So if I click on video here, you can add videos by entering the YouTube URL or the Vimeo URL. So keep in mind that YouTube and Vimeo are actually supported. You also have access to maps. So you can look at the world map preview, but let's say, for example, that we only want to focus in on a specific area. So let's say, for example, we want to do United States. We can see that it focuses in. We can also focus in on very specific states. So you can insert maps. You can also insert charts. Now, obviously, to create charts, you have different charts that you can include. Now, if you look at a typical infographic, you will notice that they have a lot of charts. And this is a great way to express data and numbers, like I said earlier. So you have triangle bars, we have horizontal bars, we have lines, we have areas, we have dots, pies, which you'll see a lot of these, stacked Venn diagrams, icon matrix, gradient hierarchy, gauges, donuts, swatch, and of course, progress bar. Now, as you can see, we can always edit these over here. So for example, we can make this into $50. And as you can see, that changes. So we have apples, oranges, berries. We could easily change this to cherries. And it changes here too. So it's very dynamic in the sense that you can edit things, insert them. You can edit charts, and you really can add different things to your infographic. Now, obviously, just to get started, I would recommend you taking a look at the template, copying the template, taking things out, removing it, replacing them with your information. Once you get comfortable utilizing Piktochart, that's when I recommend that you go all out. Go with icons, switch them out, and get a hang of this tool because it's super easy, as you can see, to use. And of course, you can download different files, different sizes, different file formats, PNG or even JPEG as the free version goes. Now, of course, there is a watermark, so you want to upgrade if you want to remove the watermark. So what I recommend you do is just use it, get acquainted with it, understand it, and when it comes time for you to really start driving traffic, then upgrade to the paid level. So that way you get a pretty good head start. And then of course you can publish, share, and to share and do private, you obviously have to upgrade as well. So these are the reasons why we like Piktochart, but I'm not saying that you have to stick with them, and you can try other ones, test them out, see how you like them, and go from there. So with that said, let's move on to video number 8, and let's talk about driving traffic to your infographic by utilizing social media. Welcome to video number 8. In this particular video, we are going to talk about promoting your infographics on social media sites. Now, up until this point, you have learned how to create a high converting infographic. Now it's time in video number 8 and 9 to show you how to drive even more traffic. So the goal here is to maximize the opportunity to get traffic. The first step is to post it on your blog, but don't stop there. Once you have posted it on your blog and on your own real estate, essentially, you'll want to increase your exposure by doing some of the basic things, such as sharing it, such as putting some basic social media share buttons on your blog posts. And sometimes we forget about these basic things because if somebody comes to your website, they view your infographic, they like it, most likely they're going to want to share it. And why not make it easier for them to do just that? So in addition to that, you want to share it on Facebook. Give people the opportunity to share it with their Facebook friends. And most likely, if you have friends that have the like-mindedness of what you're selling business-wise, your business friends, then they're most likely going to share it. And then, of course, their friends most likely will share it as well, as long as you followed us step by step in creating a high converting infographic. If you just put stuff together and you put an infographic together without ensuring that it is high converting, then that can be an issue. So we recommend not only share it on Facebook, but post a screenshot of the most captivating part of your infographic. Now, as you know, when you post something on Facebook, generally speaking, if it's a picture or even a video, it'll try to take a snapshot of the picture itself. So to make it easier, what you want to do is hone in on the most captivating part. What part of your infographic really grabs people in? Hopefully the headline, but it can be maybe a statistic, a fact, or something that really stands out to your audience. Then what you want to do is you want to tag people or companies that are involved. Obviously, you don't want to tag somebody who is not involved, otherwise that would be spam. But tag people that are involved, that are interested in that particular infographic, and maybe they have said that before. Include a link to view the full infographic to drive traffic back to your site. So obviously, if somebody shares it, you always want to have a link back to your website. If in any case, which is possible, that does not happen, and when somebody shares that and somebody else shares that, there's no link back to you, you always want to have that link down below at the bottom of your infographic, like I talked about earlier. Because that way, if somebody is interested, you give them the chance to actually find you. Number 2 is to share it on Twitter. In this case with Twitter, you are only given about 140 characters and a small amount of space. So you want to make sure that you shorten your URL first, and then you're able to combine it with your actual message. So you can use something like bit.ly, that is bit.ly, or even tinyurl to shorten your URL so that you can actually fit it into your micro message. Now, you also want to use hashtags. So use hashtag infographic, and I would advise you to do hashtag something that is a keyword that is a high demand keyword, or a keyword that somebody in your market would actually type in. Third is to share it on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to share, especially business related infographics, especially if it is targeted towards a particular niche. If it's business related, or even if it's a career related, something of that nature. You could even post it, join a group, and share it within that group as long as it is targeted. From that point, you want to post your infographic link, and you want to add an attention-grabbing headline that actually showcases the benefits of your infographic. So like I said, we're referring back to the headline, because the headline is what is going to grab people in, and that's what they're going to see first. And then, of course, you can share it on Pinterest, and the goal is to get your infographic repinned. The nice thing about Pinterest is it's a visual place where a lot of people come who are visual learners, and they're looking for graphics. So to speak directly to this type of audience, they're more likely to be interested in an infographic versus a text or article. So this is a great opportunity to use viral marketing to boom and skyrocket your infographic. You can also add a description that quickly tells what your infographic is all about. So that's a definite must. Add hashtags, just like Twitter, to piggyback on top of traffic and other hashtags that people are looking for. So if we did hashtag in a specific word, like dog training or training a dog to stop biting. So maybe hashtag stop dog biting. So even though that is a very specific hashtag keyword, and maybe not everybody is searching for it, the people that are actually searching for it are going to be likely interested, and more likely they're going to convert at a higher rate. And of course, add it to group boards and pin boards as well. So that's it for video number 8. And in video number 9, I'm going to talk about some bonus ninja tricks to get a flood of visitors to your infographics. Congratulations, you've reached the end of this video course. This is video number 9, and I'm going to share with you a bonus ninja trick to show you how to get a flood of visitors to your infographics. Now, as we all know, an infographic is more likely to be shared versus an article, simply because it is more captivating and it's more appealing and it's going to grab interest naturally anyways. However, in addition to sharing it on social media sites, what you can do is you can submit them to infographic directories so you can get more exposure to them, and this is going to add a viral effect. So this is one of many secret weapons to making your infographics go viral. There are many other promotional tactics that you can apply to get a flood of visitors to your infographic. This is one that you can actually apply right away. You can either do it yourself or you can hire somebody to actually do it for you, and you can kickstart your infographic viral marketing really, really fast. So without further ado, let's begin. So there are many different places where you can submit your infographic. One of the main ones is Scribd, that is scribd.com. Now, before you can do that, you want to make sure that you convert your infographic to a PDF file. Now, not only is Scribd a good place to submit it, you can also go to Fiverr.com, that's Fiverr.com, and do a search for infographic submission. So that's infographic space submission. Now, these are basically people who you can pay $5, $10, $20 to go out there, take your infographic, and submit it to different directories. The nice thing about that is you get more exposure, and especially these are directories where people go to specifically find infographics. So it's a niche-based directory. So as you can see here, what I normally do is I like to sort it and filter by, we'll do relevance, average customer review. So I like to do average customer review, so we kind of get the highest good reviews to the bottom ones. Now, as you can see, there's a good amount of them, not a whole lot, but so I submit your image, photo, or infographic to the top 50 sites. I will do a infographic submission to 15 sites. So let's just go ahead and open these up. So I'm going to open these up in new windows, and this one says 10, 30, and this person is going to just give you a list of the best infographic submission sites. We don't really need that. We want somebody who is going to submit it for us, and that at least has 5 to 10 good reviews. So if we take a look at this person says, I will submit your image or infographic. And they have a list here, and they're mainly photo sites, which is fine. So photo or even infographic sites, that's totally fine. It doesn't necessarily tell you what the sites are. So what I would do is I would contact these people. So obviously you need to have an account before you can do this, but I would contact each and every one of these people and say, give me a list of the sites that you are submitting to so that I can verify, and want to make sure kind of thing. So we go through here. Most of these are in JPEG format. So some of these are PDF, some of these are JPEG files, and 10 infographic submission manually. And as you can see here, you can get these people to do it just for $5. So this one will do 30 infographic submissions for $5, which is a pretty good deal. And that person will just give you a list, which is fine. If you want a list, that's fine. But another thing you can do is simply go to Google, type in top 10 infographic submission sites, and then put the year. So if the year is 2016, put top infographic submission 2016 and see what comes up. Because even though I show you certain sites now, time can change and sites come and go. So the best way to do that is to do your own research and figure out what is trending, what is actually doing well, and then piggyback on those sites to get a piggyback amount of explosive traffic. So by utilizing this strategy, you get to use somebody else to do your work for you, but you can go and do it yourself. Another site is called killerinfographics.com, as you can see here, and you can actually submit your work here as well.